All right, ready to dive into this new Netflix movie, Los Feos? Seems like it's got everyone talking.
Definitely causing a stir.
And we've got a review right here, hot off the press, so gotta say, the premise alone, pretty wild stuff, right? Future where everyone's getting surgery
Oh, wow.
to be perfect. Can you imagine?
Yeah, I mean, talk about tapping into some deep-seated anxieties we have about beauty standards, especially these days.
No kidding. It's like the age of Instagram filters and overdrive makes you wonder how far we'd actually go, to fit in.
Absolutely.
And what's got me interested in this deep dive, it's not even just about the movie, right? We're dissecting a whole review of it, like getting a sneak peek through someone else's eyes.
Exactly right. It's like
Yeah,
we get to unpack their thought process, their biases, even before forming our own opinions. Adds a whole other layer to things, doesn't it?
for sure. So give us the rundown. What's the reviewer's take on the movie's premise?
Okay, so they paint a picture of this future where cosmetic surgery isn't just like a personal choice, it's mandatory. Everyone's expected to conform to this one single ideal of beauty,
Yeah,
except, of course, our protagonist.
classic, right? The one person dares to be different trope. We've seen it before. I mean, even the reviewer kept bringing up Divergent. Are we circling back to that whole YA dystopian thing?
Yeah, they did draw a lot of parallels to Divergent. Could be a good thing, could be a bad thing, right? On the one hand, you've got that familiarity, the themes of rebellion, finding yourself, all that. But on the other hand, it does run the risk of feeling, well, a little too familiar, like we've been here before.
And here's the kicker. The reviewer, they weren't even that big on Divergent in the first place. So it makes you think, if they weren't thrilled with that, what did they make of Los Feos?
Good question. And it actually leads into another thing the reviewer pointed out, the whole world building aspect, or maybe lack thereof. That whole surgery equals world peace idea didn't quite buy it.
Yeah, they definitely seemed hung up on that. I mean, come on, can we really achieve global harmony just by making everyone look the same? Doesn't seem very realistic, even for dystopian thriller, right?
Yeah, a bit of a stretch, I'd say. And, it kind of plays into this common criticism of the genre. Sometimes the logic gets thrown out the window a bit in favor of, like, spectacle, the visuals. It's about creating a cool world, even if the why behind it doesn't totally hold water.
So it's like a cool concept, but maybe not the most believable, even in a world of dystopian fiction, right? But you know what I found interesting? The reviewer kind of owns up to not being the target audience here.
Right, like they were aware their own maybe age, their own preferences might be coloring their perception a bit. They even said something like, this movie, it might actually land better with a younger crowd, those who are already into these YA dystopian tropes.
Yeah, okay, but that gets into a whole other debate, doesn't it? Like,
Right.
just because something's made for a certain audience, does that mean it gets a free pass? Can we just say, well, it's not for me, so I can't judge it?
It's the age-old question, isn't it? Do we judge art solely on its intended audience, or are there like universal benchmarks of quality, regardless of who it's made for? Big questions, no easy answers.
And it's not just about who it's made for,
Hmm.
right? The reviewer also brought up this whole Netflix factor. Like, the movie might just blow up because, well, it's on Netflix, marketing power and all that.
Oh, absolutely. They nailed that. Streaming platforms, man, they've got so much sway these days. Their algorithms, those personalized recommendations, it's crazy. They can put a movie right in your face, top of your watch list, even if it's not like award-winning cinema.
All the time, right? You're scrolling, you're like, why not? Everyone's talking about it, even if deep down you're not totally sold.
Exactly. And it begs the question, are we losing something in this whole streaming age? Choosing convenience over quality, missing out on those hidden gems that just don't fit the algorithm's mold.
Big questions, man. It really makes you think, is the way we watch movies now, is it actually changing the way they're made in the first place? All right, so after all that, what's the verdict? How many stars did our esteemed reviewer give Los Feas?
2 out of 5.
2 stars, huh?
Yeah.
I've got to admit, with all this buildup, I was expecting, well, a little more.
Reviews, they're subjective, right? What doesn't work for one person might totally click for another. This particular reviewer, they just weren't convinced by the world building. Thought the plot was predictable, but that's just one take.
True, true. Doesn't necessarily mean everyone's going to feel the same way. Guess it comes down to whether or not the premise grabs you, right?
Exactly. And that's what these deep dives are all about, right? Giving you the info, the different perspectives, so you can make up your own mind. So I gotta ask, after all this, are you intrigued? Would you add Los Feos to your watch list?
That's the million-dollar question. And you know what? Even if this particular movie isn't everyone's cup of tea, it's got me thinking about other dystopian flicks, especially those that really make you question things like, what does it even mean to be perfect anyway?
Yeah.
There's something about those stories, those characters who dare to be different that really gets under your skin.
It's like holding up a mirror to society,
Yeah,
right? All those pressures to conform, especially in the age of social media. Dystopian stories, they make us confront those anxieties head on in a way that feels, I don't know, almost cathartic sometimes.
totally. And those themes, they never really get old, do they? So even if Los Feos isn't on your must-watch list, maybe it's sparked something else, a curiosity to revisit some classics of the genre, or even just to start a conversation about, like, what other YA novels deserve that big screen adaptation.
Ooh, now there's an idea. I'm sure our listeners have some thoughts on that one.
For sure. Hit us up on social media. Let us know what you think. Would you watch Los Feos? What other dystopian stories have stayed with you? We want to hear it all. Until next time, happy watching, everyone.